Another day in the busy Atlantic season brings us another day of tracking the tropics, and we do have some breaking news as of 11 a.m. We now have Tropical Storm Nicholas that has formed in the Gulf of Mexico, and that is going to be an imminent threat to the Gulf Coast. Louisiana and Texas should be paying extremely close attention to this, as warnings are already in effect for the Texas coast, and that could be spreading into Louisiana in the coming days, as this storm is expected to make landfall in that general area. We are also paying very close attention to a area of upper level low that is currently moving into this shaded area and could be making landfall in the East Coast. Anywhere from South Carolina to the New York area could be seeing impacts from this in the coming days. On top of that, we're paying attention with a tropical wave that does have a chance to either curve out to sea like Larry did, or potentially go towards the United States as well. And we have the chance for a subtropical system moving towards Europe, as well as a tropical wave with a very low chance of developing in the next couple of days. So quite a lot of activity going on as we're in the peak of the season. Definitely paying very, very close attention on the system for potential impacts to the East Coast in the coming week. As we took a look at Tropical Storm Nicholas on here, you can see that the storm has really bona fide and really gotten, a lot better organized over the past 24 hours. Last night, we were looking at a storm that didn't have a closed circulation, didn't have a surface circulation, and was just a little bit of a trough going like this late last night. Overnight, we saw it stall a little bit over the coast right around here near Mexico, and we saw some consolidations of a low-level center. And so now, as of this morning, we can see that we really have very, very strong northerly flow here, strong westerly flow, southerly flow, and that is curling back in. And so that does give us a center of circulation somewhere around here, which has been found by aircraft recon. And so we can clearly see that here, that it has gotten much better organized here with a lot of cloud tops. And you can clearly see that this is this does have that circulation and is no longer open. It is now completely closed. And so here's that low level center right around here. You can see same thing on that IR loop, quite a bit of convection, still very disorganized. You have a couple blobs of convection in different places. So it remains disorganized, but is strong enough to be classified as this tropical storm. Recon has been in there, found winds around 40 miles per hour. We currently don't have the latest data here, but we should have that just in a little bit, so we'll go back to that. Here's a more wide shot of the storm right now, showing you that it is a very large system, to say the least. You can see pulling all the way from the Caribbean. You've got lots of convection blowing up, already spreading into Louisiana and Texas area. So that is already spreading rainfall into that area and spreading over Florida. So it is a large system that is already impacting parts of the United States and Mexican coastline, which are already under those warnings in effect, of course, for the entire coast. You can see here it is continuing to get better organized right around here, as the storm will be tracking in this general direction. And we'll take a look at that forecast cone. Again, the storm is currently will be tracking very close to the coastline, generally westward over the last couple of days, northwestward before taking a north turn. Now, what's really going to be dictating how this goes is obviously when it does take that north turn, and that's always what we look at a letting storm like Irma. When would it be taking that north turn? Earlier, a little bit after, or way after? So that is always what we're looking at. And with this storm, no, it's very similar. We're looking, does it take this north turn a little bit earlier? Does it take this north turn much later and we see it making landfall in about 24 hours? Do we see a north turn much later and we see a landfall more in the Louisiana? Do we not see a north turn at all and it goes straight into Mexico? So that's always what we're looking at. And at this point, we're looking at a slow northerly turn, getting very close to the Mexican coastline and making landfall in the Houston area. Now notice the cone. We are looking at the possibility still for this to go in Louisiana. You can notice the cone. This means that the track could go anywhere from, here to all the way over here in this general area. So This is meaning we could be seeing this storm moving through and making landfall in Louisiana, and we could very well be seeing this storm making landfall in Mexico in the next 24 hours. Right now, we're going with right in the middle, following the Texas coastline, and this is not necessarily a better scenario. I'm just going to be bringing heavy totals of rainfall, extreme amount of storm surge, and strong winds over the entirety of the Texas and Louisiana coast. And so that is continuing. You can see that rainfall totals here. Lots of rainfall again. Texas is going to be that rainfall, but the biggest rainfall is going to be in Louisiana. We got Lake Charles area, 10 to 15 inches. Houston area, a little bit on the lower side. The coast, Corpus Christi, the entirety of the coast, we're looking at 6 to 10 inches. Spreading into New Orleans, 2 to 4 inches. Spreading into even Alabama here. Or, I mean, yeah. No, that's not Alabama. Spreading into near the Jackson area, we're looking at 4 to 6 inches. But mostly the worst is going to be on that western Louisiana coast where we are looking up to 15 inches, if not in the 20 inches area. So as the storm, again, this is the track of the storm. It's going to be tracking generally westward here. And so as it comes through and stays on the coast of Texas, we're going to be seeing most of that rainfall on the eastern side. So when the storm's about right here, we're going to be seeing most of that convection and rainfall spreading on the eastern side, and we're going to be seeing a drier western side just because of wind shear from the storm, as it's currently dealing with some wind shear. So that's going to be persevering over the next couple of days. Here's that GFS model showing this, again, moving generally to the west during the next 24 hours, northwest, and it does take a turn a little bit earlier on this model, making landfall in this area. And notice, the stronger the storm is, the more to the west it's going to go, or to the east it's going to go. And this is just due to this high pressure. The stronger it is, the less the high pressure can affect it. And we have this high pressure over here. So the stronger it is, the more it's going to be able to push into this high pressure, and the more it's going to be able to go towards the Louisiana. So if we get a storm that gets a lot stronger next 24 hours, we could be getting the storm take that turn to the north earlier and make landfall, obviously, towards the east. If we get a storm that really stays very weak over the next 24 hours, we could be seeing landfall in Mexico over the 24 hours. So that's definitely something we do have to take into consideration over the next couple of days. Looking at that forecast by the GFS model, American model of the rainfall, they have most of the rainfall over Mexico compared to the National Hurricane Center. Still a lot of rainfall. You can see lots of rainfall spreading as this storm then moves on into the United States. Still lots of rainfall. This is going to be a rainmaker for a lot of Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee. This isn't going to be a small event. And if you look at the GFS model, which has been trending stronger, you can see it getting quite a bit organized in the next 24 hours or so, becoming a stronger and tropical storm. And a Category 1 isn't out of the question yet. We're looking at a 70 mile per hour to 65 mile per hour landfall. A Category 1 is very possible. You can see here on this model, making very close to that landfall, ends up moving off the coast, becoming a Category 1 hurricane on this model. Before starting the weekend as it interacts with Flynn and does end up making landfall a little bit earlier than that National Hurricane Center cone. Again, look at that as it moves near, as it starts to move near Louisiana. You got all that rainfall over Louisiana, and then it does move into the Louisiana area. And here we see that invest, that area of interest that has a 50% chance, which I was talking about it being that possibility of it making landfall in the United States. GFS model going with very close to landfall and then curving out off to sea here as depicted by this. But that's also something we're going to have to track in the coming days for, the possibility of something like this to develop. So we're definitely going to have to take a very close look at this. Other than that, we are going to be taking a quick look at the different model landfall point, because that's going to be really the important thing. Where does this storm make landfall? And the GFS has it here. The European has a much weaker storm, and again, has it making landfall sooner. We have the GFS going for landfall right here. European model is going for landfall down here near the Texas-Mexico border, and that's just going to be depending on the model. The Canadian model, again, has an even weaker storm with this and really doesn't develop it at all, having that landfall in Mexico. The icon has a stronger storm, making landfall a little bit farther west in the GFS. So it's really going to be depending on how much organized this storm is able to get. Before we end this video, we are going to be taking a last quick look at what Recon has been getting over the last couple of hours. And you can see they found those tropical storm force winds in the area, which has strong winds. And as we look at this, so we have those winds going this way here, winds going this way here. So you have that rotation here. And so you see rotation like this, and it's still rather disorganized because you have those easterly winds right here, southerly winds here. And then it kind of switches here. And so you can see it is still rather disorganized. So we'll have to check that closely here. It is still rather disorganized, but you can see that's right about where that low level center is. Now, what's rather interesting is that they did find another one up here. So hard to tell whether that's just it and it moved already that far north. It looks like that's what's going on. We'll have to take a closer look at that as another recon comes in. But it looks like we had the center here, and now it has moved up here. So we're seeing that northwesterly side with that convection again displaced to the north and east.